when he always was very close to Dorothy Macmillan, their affair lasted for 30 years. And when she died, and the affair with my mother had finished, Bob actually, he was prone to depression, mild depression, which is why he drank, but he sank into depression. And he was bisexual. And he sought refuge actually from a cat burglar. That was somebody who he was introduced to, I think, by his manservant, who I knew very well, absolutely lovely man called Gordon, who now, in retrospect, I would definitely regard to be gay. He was from the East End. So he would have, introduced Bob maybe to some of these characters. And definitely there's one photograph of Bob sitting around a dinner table with Gordon and this cat burglar and Ronnie Kray. So I think that's how he was introduced. And remember, he did have this affinity with ordinary people from the East End. So that was already there. And the KRAYS had opened a gambling casino, Esmeralda's Bar. It was illegal gambling because everybody was, film stars, politicians from both sides, of the political parties used to go there. And so it meant that Bob didn't have to go to Monte Carlo anymore. He could go to Esmeralda's Bar. And there he befriended Ronnie Kray, especially, who I met at Bob's flat. I mean, I just thought this guy was, I thought, I was visiting Bob. I can't remember how old I was, late teens. I just thought, who's this seedy guy that Bob is? And I was introduced as Bob's goddaughter. In fact, my sister was his goddaughter, but I thought, who is this weird guy? And anyway, he went quite quickly, but I just thought of him as seedy. And then when my sister was ill, had rheumatic fever, and she was staying at Bob's flat for a week or so, to have to be under while she was under doctors, Ronnie Kray just brought a huge bouquet of flowers to her. So there was obviously this friendship, genuine friendship between the Krays and Bob, the Kray twins and Bob. And I don't really believe he knew what they got up with. Gradually it unfolded. And I just think he was very gullible. And also, Bob always had a need for friendship. He had a need to be loved and liked. And that drew him. Ronnie Kray was so proud to be associated with Bob Boothby and other politicians like Tam Dayal that, he actually really encouraged this relationship, wanted to be photographed with Bob Boothby, and would definitely provide Bob, when this friendship with the cat burglar had finished, with young men, but they were never, and this is something I really want to get, as far as I can make out, they were never underage. Never underage. It was just like Ronnie Kray. And there were these debauch parties in the East End. All this lasted for about a year and a half. And then, when the stories about the KRAYS began to come, well, then there was this huge, of course, blow up when the Sunday Mirror exposed the friendship between the peer and the gangster. And that just, it was all out in the open. And Bob was advised by, again, then a top QC at that time, be open, say it was you, come out with the truth. And at that time, he escaped to our house in Cambridge to avoid the press. And I just happened to be there. So I saw all this firsthand.